Hello, everyone. Today, I've got the great pleasure of having a conversation with Ebi Diete-Spiff, a beautiful woman that I've just met, and I can't wait to have a conversation with her about the many shifts she's had in her life. I visited Ebi's LinkedIn profile, and I saw these wonderful words that she helps people break free from self-doubt, nurture deep self-love and acceptance. And it occurred to me that some of us teach what we need to learn, and others of us teach what we've learned. And I know enough about Ebi to know that she really has a heart for teaching what she has learned. And I want us to join with her as she shares where she's been, who she's been, how she got to where she is now, not only physically, but I'll use the word spiritually and emotionally. So, Ebi, where would you like to begin with sharing with everyone who you are and where you've been?
Gosh, that's a tough one. Where would I like to begin? Where would you like me to begin from?
Well, I know you live in the UK.
I do.
But you haven't spent your whole life there. So let's start with where you've been from a geographical perspective and where you started. Where did you begin?
Okay, that's a good. I was born in the UK. My parents came here in the 50s to study, and I went back to Africa, Nigeria in Africa, when I was about 5. It was very difficult for me because I had a funny accent. At the time, I had a pure British accent. So,
yes.
So when the children heard me speak, they would laugh. So I stopped speaking.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I stopped speaking. And I didn't get over that till actually maybe my 30s. I was always very shy. I never liked to speak my voice. And then when I was 6, my dad went to do some research in Italy. So we moved to Italy for a year, and that was where I did my first year of schooling. So my first year of schooling was in a different language, which was Italian.
Oh, my.
As a child, you get fluent in languages. So I got fluent in Italian, and a year later, I was back in Nigeria. And had to go back into school without great knowledge of English, put in a class where I was not used to speaking English, and it was Italian. So I struggled. And then we had a civil war which broke out, and I didn't go to school for 3 years.
How old were you during the Civil War?
I was 8.
So tell us what you remember about that. You said you didn't go to school. So what was a day like for you?
Okay, so I remember my dad was a lecturer in one of the prominent universities in Nigeria. And so I was in a really nice school. But I remember when my parents said, I used to hear them whispering, and I heard when they said, well, the soldiers are coming close, so they need to get myself and my sister out. And so I just remember that after school broke up, we were shuffled my parents stayed behind. So it was with strangers, and they took us to somewhere which was supposed to be safer. It was safer, and we only saw a little bit of the wall. We were not in the front, but my parents were behind. So at 8, and my sister was 6, we didn't know if my parents were alive. We were just with some of our cousins. And so I didn't go to school for 3 years. And then after the war, I was put in a class relevant to my age. So I struggled. I struggled all my life in school because of all the uncertainty. And I always thought, because all my family are clever, my sister was very clever, but I just never seemed to be able to cope. And I always thought, oh, there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. And yeah, so like I said, I struggled in school. And when I was 19, I got married to a Nigerian man, and he went to study in Greece. So I joined him in Greece, Athens, Greece. So I lived in Greece for 9 years, but he was abusive, and I had 5 children, and then I came back to the UK. But after 9 years, I went back to him. I know,
Wow.
silly. And had another 2, so I have 7 children. And then I finally realized that that wasn't the right relationship. So I came back to the UK, and I brought up my 7 children as a single mother here in the UK. Yeah. So that's a brief one up till then.
Yes. And I hope you don't mind my pointing this out. You're saying it with a big smile.
Okay.
And my heart kind of breaks for that little girl,
Yeah.
you know, in war and being left with virtually strangers, not knowing what was going on with your parents. Are they alive or not? And like, can you, and again, I want you to feel comfortable with saying what's comfortable for you, but what kind of fear is that?
I think with children, and this is the thing that we need to realize about children, is that they adapt, but it's
Mhm,
there.
mhm.
And as a child, you just, if you get play, I had my cousins who were like my age, and there was play, and okay, there was fear because like when the soldiers were coming to the island, my sister and myself had to hide because we were related to the then governor of one of the states. So therefore there was a risk that we could be taken as hostages.
Yes.
So we had to hide. And that was scary, but I think as children, you kind of, when you see play and you see other children, you kind of don't think about it. But now I realize that a lot of the issues that I had in adult life went back to that stage. It's just because you block it out. You just as child as a
Yes.
child, you
Yes.
block it out, and you just live. And that's the beauty of being a child. But then at the same time, if you don't deal with the inner trauma, you find out that you have issues later on.
Yes. Yes. Yes, there's I'm not a neuroscientist by any stretch of the imagination, but there is some wonderful work being done about the early years of childhood and how we're more like sponges. We're taking everything in, and it almost gets stored at a subconscious level. And we often don't have the vocabulary, the words to articulate any of it, but it does get stored. And as you say, it can be responsible for lots of trauma. I mean, it is traumatic. It's traumatic, I would think. I've been blessed that I've never been in a war zone, except human relationships. But certainly not in a place where you're afraid that you're going to be taken hostage. And then you add into that the shifts in all the cultures and how that impacts you. And then to end up in an abusive relationship at only 19 years of age. So I just want to give you big kudos for surviving all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's the word you used with me. We talked about victimhood and survivor, and you said, I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. So what's inside Ebi that turned her into a survivor or helped her tap into that part of her that's a survivor?
I think I'm a born survivor. That's what I think I am. The world tells you you're a victim, but I think I always told myself I'm a survivor, and maybe that's what helped me survive. because when I got into the abusive relationship, that came as a shock to me. I just never knew. I never knew people did behave that way, because my parents were very protective of us. So I just didn't understand the nasties outside the world. And the first time it happened to me, I kind of thought, is this real? It was like a dream, you know. I had to like pinch myself. And I think because of the lack of self-worth, I think I accepted, because I kind of thought, okay, maybe I've done something wrong if I change this behavior. So I was looking at myself. And I guess that must have come from the self-worth I had of myself, which I discovered recently. I know you said trauma is from childhood, but I think it goes further, because
tell me more about that.
yeah, I did some work recently. And actually part of my coaching goes to do that, because I've learned to do it for other people now, in that you go back to your past, but you don't relive your past. And I found out that I've been carrying guilt for, I'm 65 now. I was going to say 66. No, not yet, September. And I was carrying all this guilt from when my mother was pregnant for me, but I didn't realize. And I've let that go now, because it was a difficult pregnancy. I was an unwanted baby. And
how do you know that? How do you know that?
I know that because she did tell me. not
wow, no doubt.
In an angry way, but just in a conference, not in saying, "Are you an unwanted baby?" No, she just do discussions, because like I said, my dad came to study in university here, and she was working as a nurse, shift nurse, and they've come from a country that's very hot. It's a country in the 50s, it used to be really cold here in the UK, and they thought that it was all paved with gold.
Yes.
And she said to me a few months ago, she wrote home and she wrote back to her mother and she said, "There's no gold here on the street." She said, "This is hell on earth." Because it was so cold. And she was doing shift work. So when she fell pregnant, it wasn't ideal. And so when you think about the trauma, because I think that we store our trauma in our neurologically. So and that passes into your babies, or you're carrying your baby, you know, the trauma the mother is holding because of the connection, it does pass. And I mean, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I have read a lot of it, and I've done a lot of studies in that area, and I kind of understand where trauma goes. And sometimes trauma goes, like I have generational trauma that went into my spine, and so I used to have spinal issues, and so did my mom, and so did a lot of my cousins. And until I worked on that trauma, and now I have no pain, where I had pain for 25 years without being able to sleep, walk properly, do different things. I had to sort out that trauma. So trauma does store itself in parts of our bodies. And yeah, and I'm thinking that maybe my self-worth has come from there. Lack of self-worth.
The lack of self-worth.
Yeah. Because I try to think back about my childhood, and apart from school, I didn't have it hard in school, but then that's because I was odd. I was odd. I was not like other children. I cried a lot. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't speak out a lot. I was very quiet. So I wasn't very liked by the other kids. So I didn't really like it in school. Yeah, but yeah, so I'm thinking that's where the self-doubt, I'm thinking that's where it's probably started.
Well, and yes, and I totally can resonate with what you're saying about that, because again, I think trauma can start before we're born, within the womb. Absolutely, because we're so connected to our mothers and to the environment around us. You know, if your parents are fighting or,
Yes,
you
exactly.
know,
They would have been arguing.
yeah,
Imagine,
and
yeah, they would have been
arguing,
arguing financial
and
issues.
your mother's talking about, I really don't
Mhm.
want this baby.
Yeah.
You know, at some level, we take that in. I mean, you know, I recently talked to somebody who was, and still is an engineer, but he talks about the energy that we are. Our
Yes.
bodies are energetic. So to
Yes.
think that and I have another friend who talks constantly about we are one. Very
Mm-hmm.
beautifully, she talks about we are one. So to
Yeah.
think that we're disconnected from our environment within the womb
Mm-hmm.
is rather naive, really.
And in some parts of Nigeria, actually a lot of parts in Nigeria, when there's a woman's pregnant, it's believed that you try to not make her unhappy, and
Mhm.
you try, when they see a pregnant woman crying, it's a big thing,
Mhm.
because they say, and this is like old wives' tales dating back years and years, and they say that what the mother is feeling, the baby's feeling. So you have to try and be happy, because otherwise you make your baby not to be happy when they come out. And I didn't understand that before, but now I'm doing all these studies. I begin to understand the connection, like you said, with the environment, with the conversations you have when you during pregnancy. My parents obviously would have been arguing. My dad would have said, "Oh, I can't deal with this baby now because I don't have the money," and then they would have been having this argument.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes, 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 and all that gets stored in the mind and in the body.
Hmm.
It's so cool and
It
interesting
is, yeah.
what we called old wives' tale, which is almost misogynistic, right? Well, a woman's saying it, so, you know, just discard it. But neuroscience is now saying, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's true. And it's just in some ways almost common sense
It
that
is when you
because
look
we're,
back.
yeah, yeah. So I'm also really interested in, you said you found a way to heal the trauma in your back. And, you know, not to go into too much depth around that, but is there a particular process that might be helpful to other people, a label that we can attach to that?
Okay, so in 2019, I read this book by Dr. Hawkins. I can't remember his first name. It's called Letting Go. And he talks about energy and about healing. So he's a psychologist, but he also works spiritually. And he talks about letting go. And he talks, so this is where I found that we don't need to relieve our trauma. So we don't need to um, discuss our past, because when we do that, we relieve the experience. The body relieves
Yes,
the experience. So your body
yes.
relieves, and that's just trauma again. And I met somebody who's now trained me to do the same sort of coaching, where you can go back to your past and let it go, because it's about letting go. That's what it
Yes.
is. So you're holding on to this trauma, and it doesn't let you, it wasn't letting me move forward in terms of things I wanted to do, goals I was trying to set, how I feel about myself. I found that I was stuck, and even though I was doing a lot of meditation and affirmations and all the things they tell us to
Yes.
do, I
Yes.
found that it works for some people, but for some people there's that block and you just can't move forward, and I was one of those. So I, through some certain ways of questioning, I was able to let go. And of course, it is an onion and things crop up from time to time. But
Mhm.
I have learned the tools that I use those questionings to on myself, that helps me to like release the particular trauma that I come up with. Yeah, so I'm just really excited about what I learned, and see myself as, I mean, like you said, when I think about the childhood, yeah, if I think about it logically, it it's emotional. But if I
Mhm.
think about it as life, it's not really, because it's maybe who I am today. I would have been a
Yes.
completely different person. And
Yes.
also with who I am today, I am able to support other people that are going through the journey I was going through 10 years ago, for instance, because
Yes.
they can see a living, because you can have a degree, but it's not the same thing. It's not.
It's the intellectual. It's the
Yeah,
intellectual understanding.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, because we're energy, and like your friend said, we're energetic being. The other person can feel the energy as opposed to
Yes.
if I'm talking intellectually.
Yes. Yes.
Makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like beautiful work that you're doing. I love it. And we will certainly provide everyone who listens to this wonderful recording information about how to reach out to you via your LinkedIn page, etc. And I'll find out, I'll look at Hawkins letting go, and I'll make a note to put that in with this recording as well. Beautiful, beautiful.
It's a book that really helped me on the power of forgiveness.
Yes.
With my ex-husband, I thought I had forgiven him, but this was 30 years on in
Yes.
2019. I realized, because I heard something and I got really triggered, and that was when I realized if what he says still triggers me, it means I'm not healed.
Yes. Yes.
Because if I'm healed, I won't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No power.
yeah,
He
no
has no
power.
power anymore when you're healed.
Exactly, no power. And so I got this book and I read the book and I thought, wow, this is exactly what I want, because I have done therapy, I've done CBT, so I've done different things, but I thought this is what I really want. I need to let go, but not relieve it. And he talks so much about how to let go and how we're energy and how different types of energy and different types of our negativity can bring us down. And he talks about owning it. So I'm not saying that it's my fault that I was abused, but why you can say why me, but not in a negative way. Why did I attract? Because the world is our mirror. What you see is what you are inside. And what you're getting is what's in your subconscious. It's not that it's your fault, because it's so subconscious and you don't realize. But if you have lack of self-worth and lack of self-confidence and you don't feel good about yourself, you keep getting people around you that make you feel more that way, or because the spirit talks to spirit. So that spirit is trying to tell you need to do the work inside. You need to do the work inside. So if you keep meeting those people, and you will keep meeting them until you do the work, then you start meeting different people. This is what I've found.
Yes.
Stephen Covey did say, what did he say now? We see the world as we are.
Yes, not as it is, but as we are.
Yeah, and it's so true, because we live in a dichotomy. So when you got one, you'll get the opposite, and they coexist. And depending on what you are, that's what you'll see. So if you see the world as awful and bad, you're struggling inside. And when you change the inside, all you'll see is good. All you'll see is beauty. You'll see the trees, you'll hear the birds. I never used to hear the birds. I live in London, so it's difficult to hear the birds, but they are there. And now I can hear them. But before, I couldn't hear them. The first time I heard them, I thought, ooh, I can actually hear birds.
They're beautiful.
Because there's so much noise in London, and it's like all cars and everything and people. So but when you become more conscious, you're more aware of these things, and all you see is like beauty. You see, like I started learning how to draw trees, and now each tree to me is so different, because I can see the uniqueness in each tree. And then you realize how beautiful the world is. And I know there's a lot of suffering, and I have lived in regions where people suffer, but you'll be surprised at how happy they are. They're actually happier than we are with everything we have.
Yes, and there's such beautiful examples of that. I mean, Nelson Mandela was, a powerful voice for that experience of how being in prison didn't imprison him.
Exactly.
Yes, yes. So it's like these things that shape us can be pretty horrific, and yet they become a doorway or a portal to something very beautiful. And I see such a wise woman in front of me. You said you weren't clever, but
I thought I wasn't. I know I am.
yes,
But as a child,
yes,
I always thought I wasn't until I realized that I really am.
well,
And
you have wisdom, which is to
yeah,
me
yeah,
different than cleverness.
yeah. And it's not, some people have the gift of passing exams,
Yes.
but doesn't mean that people who don't have that gift are less. But I think in society, we focus on that, and that's the thing. For society focuses on people who are academic and leave out those that are more skillful, where you need both to work together.
Mhm. So let's spend a moment just for you to reach out to anyone who's struggling and send out an invitation to them. What's your invitation to people?
My invitation is love thyself. And I think a lot of people misunderstand loving yourself for self-absorption, which is completely two different things. Self-absorption is more external,
Mm,
where loving yourself is more internal. So knowing who you are, who you truly are, and the power you have. Um, a famous saying, love thy neighbor as thyself. And there's a reason why you love thy neighbor. It says thyself. It doesn't say love thy neighbor first. It says love thy neighbor as thyself.
mm,
Because as you start to grow to love yourself, it's so expansive. You find out that everything you love, even people who are persecuting you, it's such a powerful thing. And I didn't really realize that. And the key to me, like after I came out of my abusive relationship, I I realized, I did all this work, and then I realized that, oh, the key was I did not love myself.
mhm,
I kept
mhm,
self-sabotaging. And as I started to learn to love myself, um, you just love yourself. You say you will not do harm to anything. You will not. We talk so much about the climate. You would find out you will do things that are beneficial for the climate. You will be less judgmental of others. You see people as you are. You start to realize that we're all one. That's so
yes,
powerful to realize that the whole globe, we're all one. We just manifest and see each other as separate, but we're
yes,
all one. So when you're hurting somebody else, you're actually hurting yourself.
mhm,
And that's why when we hurt other people, we don't feel good. We feel good maybe for 5 minutes, but
yes,
deep down we start, because really you're hurting yourself. And when you throw abusive language at people, you're actually throwing it at yourself.
mhm, mhm,
And it's so powerful to find self-love, and it takes work, but again, like every neurological thing, it's just habit. So just forming
mhm,
the habits of
mhm,
loving you, and don't see yourself as selfish, because I think as women we have the issue of we always want to do for everybody else
mhm,
apart from ourselves. So we're
mhm,
so tired, but at the end of the day, because we're so busy doing for everybody else than
mhm,
ourselves. But we have to take time to do stuff for ourselves. Treat yourself. Like every month I have a full body massage and a pedicure. Every month
Just a
I do that.
simple thing.
Yeah,
Yes,
just
yes,
simple things. And if I don't want to spend money, there are things you can do for free. You can just go out,
mhm,
and just spend time with yourself. You don't always have to go out with friends. I go to the movies on my own. I do
mhm,
things on myself. Spend just quiet time by yourself.
mhm,
Appreciate yourself, and very important to know that you are powerful, and never compare yourself to somebody else. Because I
mhm,
think that's another thing that gets us.
mhm.
Like on LinkedIn, oh, that person's post is better than mine. Oh, why can't I be as good as that person? Oh, my ones that, oh, why don't I look as good as that person? Oh, I've got wrinkles here, I've got that. You just always throwing things at yourself. But just learning to truly, truly love yourself the same way maybe your creator, whatever you believe in, loves you as this, as we all believe, most of us anyway, believe that there's a creator. And the same way our creator believes that we can do anything, we should be able to believe that we can do anything, because if we believe we can do anything, then we can. And I know it sounds simple, and I know it's not easy, because when we've been living all these years thinking that we have to always compete, we always have to compete. But when you're competing, you're not creative. You lose your creativity. So if you learn to love yourself, the success and everything else will just fall into place.
Yes, and I think you redefine success, perhaps.
Yes.
It's not about winning a competition.
Exactly.
It's not real success. Yeah.
Yes. Like I see, I mean, I haven't won a competition. I don't have a lot of money, but I see my life as successful. I was in an abusive relationship, it was pretty horrendous. And I was able, with all my children, I remind myself of the nursery rhyme of the lady who lived in the shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do.
Yes, 7 children. I believe you epitomize that. Wow.
But they're all adults now. See, they're all, and at the time, yeah. But what I did is I didn't try to think too far ahead. I just took each day at a time. Gratitude, and there's so many kind people who step in. People are just helpful. People step in, people help. You believe in yourself, you find the strength, you find the energy, you move on. And yeah, what is success? Success, I was able to bring up my children. They're all independent, they've all got good jobs, they all went to university,
That is success.
It is, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm now in my later years doing something else, enjoying the world. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Ebi, for sharing your journey. It's truly remarkable.
Thank you.
That you have accomplished what is most important, I think. Learning to love yourself, and you epitomize again how to break free from self-doubt, nurture deep self-love and acceptance. So I encourage people to reach out to Ebi. There will be information in the notes. And again, just thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to all the viewers.
Amen.
Amen.